I saw a very interesting analysis last night written by Grok, which is Elon Musk's AI search engine. And this Grok basically analyzed the 28-point peace plan and said this was written in Russia. The syntax, etc., was all translated from Russian into English. And of course, the substance of this 28-point peace plan is clearly a Russian peace plan, not a proper peace plan, because it has some unreasonable demands that neither Europe, Ukraine, or the American people would support.
Well, Donald Trump's 28-point peace plan has been criticized for overwhelmingly favoring Russia and forcing significant concessions from Ukraine. But the US president says that this is not the final offer. Republican Senator Mike Rounds, along with a group of other senators, said that the peace plan was actually formed by Russia.
Secretary Rubio did make a phone call to us this afternoon. I think he made it very clear to us that we are the recipients of a proposal that was delivered to one of our representatives. It is not our recommendation. It is not our peace plan. It is a proposal that was received, and as an intermediary, we have made arrangements to share it, and we did not release it. It was leaked. It was not released by our members or our representatives.
Well, the confusion continues as the US Secretary of State Marco Rubio has insisted that the plan to end the Ukraine war, which has been widely viewed as favourable to Russia, was authored by the US. Well, let's welcome to the show Sir Bill Browder, CEO of Hermitage Capital Management and author of Red Notice, How I Became Putin's #1 Enemy. Sir Bill, thank you for giving us your time.
Great to be here.
What do you make of the confusion of the origin of this 28-point plan?
Well, I mean, it really is a circus right now when you look at the whole thing. I saw a very interesting analysis last night written by Grok, which is Elon Musk's AI search engine. And this Grok basically analyzed the 28-point peace plan and said this was written in Russia. The syntax, etc., was all translated from Russian into English. And of course, the substance of this 28-point peace plan is clearly a Russian peace plan, not a proper peace plan, because it has some unreasonable demands that neither Europe, Ukraine, or the American people would support. And so, it's sort of typical of the Trump administration. They put something crazy out there. We saw this with tariffs. They were going to tariff Canada by 100% and Mexico by 100%. And then when push came to shove, it all didn't happen. And I'm sure that that's going to be the case here. This proposal is an unreasonable proposal. There's no way that we could accept it in Europe. It won't happen. And to the extent that it's altered to make it acceptable, then the Russians won't accept it. And so a month from now, we'll have forgotten about this peace plan and being looking for another way to end this war.
There is a piece in today's Times written by Matthew Syed. The title is "Don't Blame Trump, We're the Ones Who Falsely Raise Ukraine's Hopes." Now, it's a really well thought out piece, very much in depth. But Matthew Syed does ask the question of how on earth has the West not been able to put an end to this war when we're looking at a country whose GDP is that of the size of Italy's? We've got more financial strength. There's more people on the ground, artillery, weapons. Why on earth is this war continuing to get on? Essentially, the criticism from Matthew coming in that the West has been talking a good game, but actually when it comes to actions, they haven't really been taking actions that have made much difference.
Well, that's I would say that's 50% true. On one hand, we have been holding back certain things that we could do for Ukraine that would help them in this war. We've held back certain weapons that Ukraine could use to strike Russian targets. We've held back sanctions that we could impose on the Russian oil industry, which would starve Putin of his money. But on the other side, Putin is ready to sacrifice everything for this war. And that's something that no matter what size his economy is, no matter how much resources he has, if he's ready to lose more than 1 million young men, which he has already done through death or disability, that's kind of hard to fight with, because that's just, if somebody is willing to be that self-destructive, that creates a real problem. And it's not just a problem for his war with Ukraine. If we in the West, in Europe, ever end up in a conflict with Putin and he's ready to make those types of sacrifices, that's going to be a real problem for us as well.
But why, though? You've mentioned it. Can we understand why we've dithered on, as Matthew Syed puts it, we've dithered on the anti-tank weaponry, the long-range artillery, the battle tanks, the advanced air systems, so many more. And our sanctions, he describes them as so porous that laundered Russian oil keeps finding its way into global markets, a de facto cash point for the Kremlin's killing machine. This has been going on since February 2022. Why have we not taken the actions that we know would have actually been able to put an end to this war? And we still talk a good game, but we don't take the necessary actions. Why do you think that is?
Well, part of it is that Putin has convinced everybody that he's a madman, that he will launch a nuclear war, that we will all end up in a World War III. And therefore, everybody has been sort of slowly around the edges trying to appease him. And so during the Biden administration, when all sorts of financial support went to Ukraine, that financial support came with strings attached. And the strings were, you can't strike targets inside the Russian Federation. So you could have a major battalion on one side of the border about to attack Ukraine, and according to the Biden rules, you couldn't strike them with the missiles that America provided. Now, interestingly, now that Biden's gone and there's no more financial support, and under Trump, there's no more rules about not striking inside of Russia. And so Ukraine, while not having the same amount of financial resources and military support, are now hitting targets all over Russia to great effect. Every day we're seeing oil refineries, electricity plants, military depots getting blown up. And so, yes, it's really frustrating and painful. I've been actively involved in advocating and lobbying for tougher measures against Russia. And I've seen it with my own eyes, the appeasement in different places, the fear of escalation, all sorts of other bad philosophies towards doing this. But the one thing I would say, and this is really important, is that we all counted Ukraine out. We said 3 days into this war, they're going to be finished. And that just hasn't happened. Ukraine is much, much tougher than anyone could ever have imagined. And the reason that they're so much tougher is because the consequence of losing to Russia is actually worse than war. If Russia occupies Ukraine, all the women are raped, all the men are then tortured and arrested, and all the children are kidnapped. And so they're ready to fight and fight like hell and continue to fight rather than be under Russian occupation. And so I don't think that whatever sort of frustrations we have in any way rules Ukraine out. Ukraine is not losing the war. This war is a stalemate, and it's a really serious stalemate for Russia, because even in order to maintain the stalemate, they're losing 1,000 men a day on the front line.
So, Bill, I just wanted to get your thoughts very briefly on a separate story. Nathan Gill, a Reform UK politician, has been jailed for 10 years for accepting Russian cash to peddle influence. What are your thoughts, firstly, on the sentencing, and also having seen recently warnings be handed out to members of the House of Lords and UK MPs of Chinese spying? Do you think not enough attention has been shed on this issue of Russian interference in our politics?
Yeah, well, so first of all, I think the sentence is way too short. What he did was he sold UK national interest as an elected politician in the European Parliament on behalf of an enemy, Russia. And I think that that's just completely unreasonable. A 10-year sentence is way too short. He sold out our country. He's a traitor to our country. He should have gotten a life sentence, in my opinion. Furthermore, as far as the interference of Russia and the interference of China, it's all over the place. There was actually an investigation done by the Intelligence and Security Committee of the Parliament into this whole thing a number of years ago, and I participated and contributed to the report. And then the report was held back for like 6 months by Boris Johnson. Didn't want the information to be revealed. And there's just so much political interference in showing what's happening because different people are benefiting. And I would say that Nathan Gill is the tip of a very big iceberg. There's a lot of people who have been receiving money from Russia, from China, and we are a porous, exposed country because of that.
So, Bill, thank you for giving us your time. I'm sorry we had to cut it short there because of lack of time, but thank you for joining us. Sir Bill Browder, CEO of Hermitage Capital Management and the author of Red Notice, became Putin's #1 enemy.